want to focus as well, and do feel free to call in on this as well, on Extinction Rebellion again. The activists of XR are continuing to protest despite a London-wide ban, supposedly by police. The group says it will challenge the ban legally. It simply believes it is unlawful. Lawyers and politicians have also criticised the move, and all the while climate change protesters have carried on, targeting, in this instance, the Department for Transport and MI5 this morning. A government spokeswoman said the protest should not disrupt people's day-to-day lives. Let's talk to an Extinction Rebellion spokesperson now, Dr. Rupert Read. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Why do you believe the ban to be unlawful, first of all?
Well, this is a shocking and unprecedented move. The thing which is really shocking about it to me is that we're talking about the right to peaceful protest and the right to assembly, the right of people to gather together. These are fundamental rights that go deep back into the history of this country, to habeas corpus and Magna Carta and so on. And it's very kind of threatening and undermining to think that these things could be in the balance. So I'm just on the Strand now. I've just been in Trafalgar Square with a group of us who were gathered there. We had MPs, we had MEPs, we had ordinary members of the public, and there were a lot of police there. And basically what we were saying is, look, are you really telling us that this is not legal for us to just be here talking with one another, making a few little speeches? The police didn't arrest us, but they did say to us that they thought that what we were doing was illegal. So very, very disturbing moment, really, potentially in the history of British democracy. And we're very glad that a number of MPs and others are speaking out on this.
You will accept, will you, that some of your gatherings are rather larger than the one you've just described and rather more active than the one you've just described?
Absolutely. Of course, we do non-violent direct action, right? And about 1,500 of us have been arrested so far. And many of those people obviously have been doing things that they knew were breaking the law for the cause, which, of course, is the climate and ecological emergency, which threatens to take down us all unless we do something about it. But the problem with what's happened now is that this draconian new order is, as I say, threatening to make even completely peaceful and completely legal protest illegal. I mean, that's the point. It's kind of paradoxical. They want to say you're protesting within the law, but nevertheless it's illegal. That's the thing which we think is kind of centrally crazy about it, and that we think will probably prove vulnerable to legal challenge.
I mean, I would certainly agree with you that the right to protest is very deep-rooted in our nation, and long may that continue. But there will be people who hear what you say, Dr. Read, and just think, look, enough now. Over a week of really major disruption in some parts of the capital and people's journeys from A to B and all the rest of it. And I know this is part of the plan, I get it. But for how long, I suppose, would be some people's retort to you, and they perhaps favour what the police are doing?
Well, I hope not many listeners favour what the police are doing in this latest instance, which we think has probably come down from orders from the Home Office. Even the Mayor is raising questions about it. Of course, what we're doing is disruptive, and we apologise for the disruption, and we also make the point that this disruption that we're bringing is just a tiny, minuscule fraction of the vast disruption that will come if we don't change everything fast. So crop failures, that's real disruption, right? That's what's going to happen in the next few years, probably, unless we start to turn everything around, and unless we start to make moves to protect ourselves from the deteriorating climate, which massive inaction from many years from politicians has put us right in the firing line of.
But wouldn't the police just say to you, look, you know, in ordinary circumstances, we would give protesters a few hours before we moved in and stopped this level of disruption. You've had 10 days.
Well, yes and no. What happened last night, I was there in Trafalgar Square last night also. There was a camp there in Trafalgar Square. It was completely peaceful, obviously. It was also not blocking anything. It was just, on the pedestrianised area of Trafalgar Square. And the police had given permission for it to be there. And then they came in and with half an hour's notice said everybody had to leave, just as some people were bedding down from the night and so on. Seemed to me kind of petty and deliberately designed to be, if you will, disruptive. Look, we are here, as you say, for a couple of weeks. This round of our rebellion will finish at this coming weekend. But the rebellion will go on until there is action, right? We've had words. We've had the Parliament, for example, saying, yes, there is a climate and ecological emergency, and most of the people in this country now agree. Opinion polls are very clear about that. But until there is real action, until we start getting things like Heathrow's expansion being cancelled, until we start getting things like massive swinging taxes on air flights and other things which are especially damaging, these are the kinds of things that, I'm not saying those things specifically, but those are the kinds of things that would be needed to be brought in if we were to turn this around. Extinction Rebellion will have to go on unless and until we get to the point where that kind of action will take place.
Do you think you still have the support of Sadiq Khan? He's expressed support.
Well, Sadiq Khan has at times expressed a moderate degree of support for our message. As have a huge number of people. Of course, it's really important here to distinguish between us and the message. At the end of the day, it doesn't really much matter what people think of us, Extinction Rebellion.
Have you spoken to him?
Have
you spoken to him and met him?
Well, we've met him in the past, and we're hoping to meet with him again now to talk about this latest infringement upon the right to assembly. And really what we're about here, as you know, is trying to get this message through and trying to get action on it. What people think about us isn't really the point, but right now we're at the crux of a question about what the future of our democracy is going to be in this country, the mother of all parliaments. I'm deeply hoping that the people, as well as the politicians, will stand up for it. And I would urge listeners who are concerned to write to their MPs and say, look, we've got to preserve this right to protest, no matter what the content of the protest. As long as protest is peaceful, surely, and as long as it's within the law, who can really disagree with it?
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Rupert Read, Extinction Rebellion spokesperson. Your calls on that, do you think...